Hey there again. Going to make a quick video about how to submit an assignment if you're a student. This is covered in my navigation video, but it's pretty long. So I want to make a shorter one so we can get right to the point. So I'm in my student dashboard here that I've created an account for myself so I can see what my students see. So we see some assignments that are due here that I've assigned to this class period. So if I want to use one of those, I can just click the start button here. If my teacher has just wanted me to find music to practice on my own, I can do that under Find Music over here. And there's different filters that already exist, so I can find solos. I did that yesterday on my trombone to practice a little bit, encourage my students. There's exercises and improvisation, method books, and all kinds of stuff you can get into there. The key is, if you're just doing some exploration, in order to get credit for it in the practice analytics, you need to make sure that you're practicing with the play button going. So you can adjust your tempos. You can start from wherever you want to. We'll talk about that here in just a second, but make sure that play button is running. Otherwise, it's not just going to monitor the time the window is open, because then people could just open the window and go play video games for a little bit, and it would record time that wasn't spent practicing. So it causes you to have to be a little bit more active. Alright, so we're going to just use this first one that summer was just beginning, which is a great tune if you're looking for some content to practice. I'm going to click the start button here. I'm going to pick my instrument. I'm a trombone player, so I'm going to scroll down to trombone and hit OK. So pick whatever part your director has assigned you to do. Once you've done that assignment, you can go, if you're a third trumpet player and you want to start getting ready to be a second or a first trumpet player, go practice those parts. One of the things that I've talked with my students about is the whole idea of dress for the job you want, not the job you have. If you want to be a first trumpet player, you need to be playing first trumpet parts because they're higher and they have solos in them. So go ahead and put yourself out there a little bit. This is a good place and way to do that. So after you click the instrument you're going to do, it's going to come up with the instructions for your assignment that your director loaded in. So this tells me to check my key signature, be sure to observe the key change at measure 57, and more instructions here. I don't have my trombone out, so I'm not going to play along and subject you to that. Alright, so here in this window we can see a lot of different things. The accompaniment part, so there's the backing track. I can turn that on or off depending on what you'd like to do. The My part, which will have, in this case, a trombone player. If you play flute, it'll be flute. Turn that on or off. For practice purposes, this is great to use because then you can match another player. So one of the things we've been working on a lot in our ensembles is matching our neighbors to create that blend that we're looking for in our ensemble. So that'll give you an opportunity, even though you're by yourself, to blend with your neighbor, who in this case happens to be a recording. So that gives you that opportunity. And then metronome here, I can turn that volume up or down. I can turn that on or off. I can also click subdivision. This piece is a little bit slower. As you can see over here, 62 beats a minute. This one's pretty slow, so I might actually turn that on for this assignment. But you can also see here my tempo. If you need to practice this a little bit before you do it, you can type in whatever tempo you want. So say I want to bring it down to 55. I can just type that in there, or I can use these plus and minuses. Notice that it's red. That's because my assignment requires me to play it at that 62 beats per minute. I can't do it above it. See how that goes red too? And then this reset button brings it back. So you can practice it slower. This is more for like technical passages. Maybe you got some 30-second notes in your woodwind player, and you really need to go woodshed that for a little bit. You can incrementally change your tempo there. Your microphone, you can calibrate that. Pretty simple menu there. There's a tuner, which will be important because smart music is fantastic, but it only listens to the pitch you play and when you play it. It's not listening for dynamics. It's not listening for articulations and those sorts of things. Your director will be the one that has to come back and listen and grade that part of it, just because there's not a great way, because how soft is piano? We all should know that dynamics are how loudly we should play, or how loudly we should be heard, not how loudly we play. So piano's not like a decibel level, so there's not a good way for a computer to analyze that. This right here is our count off area. So this piece is in 4/4. So 4 is great because it gives me a measure to get ready. Maybe I want another minute because I gotta click my neck strap in and make sure my reed's ready. So I want 2 measures, where you could bump that up to 8 if you wanted to. If the piece was in 3/4, you could do 3 or 6. So we're gonna leave that on 4/4 there. I can toggle my page over here from page 1 to page 2. And we see my assignment goes on to page 2. If here. So it'll automatically, once I hit the assignment, it'll automatically change pages for me. You can also notice, because I'm playing first trombone, I'm going to follow the stems up when it divides. That's what that word means right there, D-I-V, divisi. So this is the second trombone that comes down here, so I won't play those notes. I'll just play the upward stem. And then A2, I've had my students ask me about that. That just means everybody plays together again. Sometimes it'll say 2D there instead. So one trick to some of the tempo changes is obviously to practice with it. We see down here there's a retardando here before the key change. So practicing with it a few times just to see how the computer is going to address that will be pretty good. So first thing we want to do obviously is practice. So our play button here is going to be what we want to hit. So let's hit that now. I'm going to turn my speakers down a little bit so I don't overwhelm you with sound. So you hear the subdivision in the background. Da, 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 da. Yeah, beautiful piece of music. So I can turn my government down, and I hear the trombone coming through a lot better. And turn the government up, turn the trombone off. Now I'm responsible for playing that myself. Really gives you opportunity to be the musician in the room, right? You see here the subdivisions help out a lot. So that's kind of what that looks like. You can do that over and over again. You can also go up here to the loop button, and you can have it loop this chunk of music over and over again. You can see this option, use count off between loops, which gives you a second to take a breath and think about what you did before you do it again. And then you can adjust your count if you give yourself 8 clicks, 2 measures between. That's if you're just wanting to really woodshed. If it's a small assignment, if it's a whole piece of music, you're not necessarily going to want to use this feature. But if you need to zoom in on your music, click display. And you have your zoom in and out in full screen mode right here. If you're colorblind, this is an opportunity here. Once you hit the record button, there'll be different colors that pop up that correspond to mistakes and correct notes. And so this will help you with some of those colors that are there. And then you can highlight the measure. As you see, now this measure is highlighted. So it just kind of helps you follow along if that's something that you need. You can turn that off and just follow the cursor. Here's some cursor options for you, which is this line right here. The beat one is the one we use this time. It just follows the beat of the piece. The flow is just going to give you a steady flow from left to right, kind of like Guitar Hero, where things just scroll past. And then no cursor is going to follow the notes, or no cursor at all. I encourage you to use some kind of cursor. I like the beat cursor because it helps me see where the notes are in relationship to the beat or the toe tap. Just kind of gives me another way to be more precise. So I'm going to go back to tracks. I'm going to turn my part off because I'm going to get ready. I've practiced now. I'm going to get ready to do the actual assignment. I'm also going to toggle back to the beginning of the assignment down here at the bottom. I'm just going to click this beat 1 here. You see my cursor jumps to beat 1. I could start wherever I want to if I desire to. The assignment won't record from there because it's the whole section. But if I'm practicing, I just want to practice a measure or hear what it sounds like, I can do that. Alright, so now we're going to hit the record button here. And I'm going to just whistle along a little bit. I apologize in advance. Cool, a little test there. So we did that just to create some right and stuff, some wrong stuff, to show you kind of what's going on. So obviously I rested really well. With these notes you can see I did not do well. Same thing, this note, right note but late. It's kind of what that shows. And it could show you if you go early, it'd be on the left side of the note. Got these two correct. Here obviously even more mistakes. So I'm trying to create some different responses here. You see here at the top left, here where my cursor is, I didn't do the whole assignment, so one, I made a lot of mistakes, and two, I didn't do the whole thing, so I only got 13%, which means I need to do this again. And you can record and record and record until you get the score that you want. Say I don't know, I'm a trombone player, but I don't know what this note here is. I can click on that note, and then you see these two tiny little icons here. The one on the left, if I click on that, let's see if I can get my mouse on it. There we go. It's going to show me a fingering chart. So this will be specific to your instrument. It shows that it's an A sharp B flat, in this case B flat, in first position. If there's alternate positions or alternate fingerings, it'll show me what those are going to be down here. So there's a helpful way to learn something. All right, I'm going to click on that again. Say you don't know what that note sounds like. You can click on the right icon, and it's going to play it for you. So we can record this again. We can listen to our take here, what we just did. Or we can record again. So I'm going to make another recording so I can show you what that is like. As we're going to start off in the middle of the measure. So double check this before you start. So, lots of incorrectness. I'm not a professional whistler, full disclosure. So anyway, so we've got this take. It was even worse. It was at 3%. So now you can notice that I've got some recordings that's taken me over to my takes at the top. I click this drop down, and I can see all of my takes here. It's going to show me my most recent, and then my best scores. So again, record till you get the score that you're looking for. And I like this recording here that we did because I got the best score on it. If you click save, it's going to download it to your computer, so that's up to you. But I can also then, if I'm happy with that, I can click submit. If I've got like a comment I want to put in there for my director, maybe I have some trouble with my microphone, or I'm having trouble with a particular rhythm and measure 54, I can put a question in there for my director that they'll see when they do that. So let's just put in a I don't understand. And that way my director can also give me some feedback. And it's going to submit that for your director. And it's succeeded. So we close. If you're a percussionist, click on the assessment here. And if you're doing, say, a triangle or snare drum, bass drum kind of part that doesn't have pitch to it, I'd encourage you to use a practice pad or some other hard surface. I've told my students if they use a tabletop, make sure they talk with their parents first, because you're going to leave small divots in your tabletop and you don't want mom to get mad at you. So double check that, but you want to make sure that this percussion clap mode is on. If you're doing a keyboard part on a bell set, for example, that doesn't matter because you have pitch that the computer can pick up on. So just a last little thing for that. And we talked about display. Yeah, so that's pretty much all of it. Now if I go back to my dashboard here, or my home, I can scroll down and I can see anything that's maybe recently graded. It's going to hop in here. And because Smart Music just automatically graded it, it's going to show up in here. If my director adjusts that grade, it'll reflect here, and then any comments, that comment button there for my grade book. Let's see if it does anything. It appears as though it's not right now. The computer's been running a little slow today. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Sorry again, I've kind of a long video, but hopefully that steps you through as many of the things you might run into as possible. And best of luck on your assignments, and see you on the cloud.